Oh my goodness, welcome back. It's been a minute since we've had a good yap session, and I have something to yap about today because Yu-Gi-Oh has been making me a little sad lately. I think I am going through a Yu-Gi-Oh slump, and I want to talk about it because I feel like my gripes with the game are not... I do not think I'm alone in having these gripes. So I want to share them with you and find solace in the fact that sometimes this game kind of sucks, man. Sometimes it just makes me sad. I started feeling this way when I decided I wanted to play Malfie. If you've seen my Malfie mania, I refer to it as my Malfie psychosis. I just thought it was so cute. I really wanted to do Yummy Malfie. I got so into it. I was probably the most motivated I've been about like making a deck and trying it. And I ordered a bunch of cards and I got my as shiny as Malfie can possibly be version of the cards. And I was like so stoked on it. And then it did terribly. I should preface this by saying something I'm trying to remind myself of is that learning new decks takes time, gathering experience and expertise. But even that has been bugging me about Yu-Gi-Oh! Because with my Malfie mania, I was like, I would like to be able to play my cute Malfie deck. I get it does well in Genesis. Yes, I saw the comments. But like, why should I have to go to a whole different format to have fun with this deck? Right? Like, I spent all this time, effort, excitement, and then I sat down to play in person. I logged into Omega, and I just got the ever-loving crap beaten out of me. It wasn't fun. I was experiencing something I hadn't really experienced since I first started learning Yu-Gi-Oh! Of these very non-games. You bring your deck, right? Like, because I feel like as new players, we often experience you bring your deck, you're ready to play, and then you just get absolutely shut out. Like, you don't get to play. You get to watch someone combo. You get to watch someone interact with your cards in a way that makes it where you are unable to do anything, and then you're kind of left being like, oh, that wasn't fun. I didn't have fun. But add in the fact that I've been playing now for a year, and I was like, well, I just want to play Malfie. And it was not fun. And I really wanted to have fun with that deck. I really wanted to make it work. But the amount of effort that it's taking to even try to make it meta viable is making me sad. Because the second thing I have to gripe about, because one, Malfie not working has made me sad. Two, the meta. I don't know what to call the decks that I normally play, but I would not consider myself a meta chaser, a meta follower, a meta builder. The decks, I honestly think Yummy was the most meta I ever went. And even then, I stuck on it and I did like Sulfur Cord Yummy, and then I did Mitsu Yummy, and I changed it up. And I was learning, so I stuck to that deck for so long as well because that's when I was learning. But other than Yummy, Malice, I do not think would be considered meta currently. Was it extremely meta? Yeah. Are we now? If you look at the graphs, I'll like insert the graph of like Nats, right? I'm not playing the decks that are on the graphs, okay? I was playing Malice. I originally first started learning on Pearly. So I feel like I pick up decks like past their prime, right? Like at one point, Pearly was like super meta. I wasn't playing it then. At one point, Malice, super meta, not playing it then. And then my latest love is Fairy Tale Magistus. And so, yes, I will play decks that will have showings at regionals. There was a Fairy Tale deck that topped a regional. I'm not playing like the most rogue. I'm not bringing Malfie. Malfie was the first true one where I was like, wait a second. And so I sometimes have an aversion to the meta just because of how I am. I've told the story on my channel before about how I have not read the Harry Potter books because everyone read the Harry Potter books and loved them and tried to peer pressure me in high school to read them. And we were sitting in, calculus class and they were like, what house are you in? And I was like, I'm not in any house. I really struggle to engage with things that are popular. Doesn't matter if they're popular because they're good. Just if they gain a certain amount of popularity, I get kind of like, not for me, right? Like I have never had the desire to play cool tunes. And then once it got popular, that desire was even less. I am dipping my toe into meta, and I still think I'm doing it later than what I would have done I'm learning elf notes. And part of my learning elf notes is because I kind of had a realization after I went through my Malfie mania, and then I built Blitzclick, and it got absolutely demolished by Rolad or like ritual decks. I just think it's a really terrible matchup into it. And there was just kind of this feeling of like, if I want to be successful at the game, meaning I want to win / have interactive gameplay, have games where I'm having fun, because fun to me feels like I'm able to do my cute little funny combo, be able to interact, have a back and forth, right? Not, have you set up your full combo board, you pass to me and I'm like, well, game 2, right? Like, I personally don't think that's fun. It's fun when you do it to someone else. It's fun when I set up a full board and then but even then, I feel like the decks, like specifically with like Fairy Tale, it was unlikely that like the Fairy Tale end board was going to be a board that people were like, oh, I'm just like not even going to attempt to break it. So I kind of had the realization of like, if I want to feel successful in this game, I think I have to play meta. And I don't like the feeling that the deck choices are so crazy limited. Now, there's a bunch of stuff that you could be like, Experience does matter. I think the longer you've been playing, I've been playing a year. I do think the longer you've been playing, how the winner of Nats said about Sky Striker, it wasn't the deck, it was him. I do think there are individuals who pick a deck, stay with the deck, make it work, and if you raise your skill enough on that deck, you are able to perform better. I've said it about Elf Note in other videos. I've called it kind of baby-proof in terms of Crystal Wing Pass is still a better board that requires like remembering like 3 things. Versus I felt really proud of myself with Fairy Tale because I was able to learn the intricacies enough to, I feel like, perform really well with it. Whereas it was the type of deck that I don't think you could just give to anybody. And because it wasn't as, it was like kind of baby proof, like you could just make Teller, but then like there's all this other stuff you could do with it that I feel like I got to do because I spent time. I put in the time with it. I don't really want to be a one trick. I don't. I loved Malice, but my brain gets tired of playing the same thing. So then I went to Fairy Tale. So then I love Fairy Tale, but I want to play something new. And then I found Malfie, and then I found Blitzclick, and I was so frustrated by the performance that those had. Because it didn't even feel like when I was first learning Fairy Tale and I was like, yeah, this is kind of like an uphill battle, but I'll get better. Like Malfie just felt like, I don't think there's anything this can do. Blitzclick, and I think because I was playing into Rolad or Ritual decks, which I just think it's a bad matchup because Blitzclick has to be able to pop the stuff to summon it. So if you have like stuff that's not affected by targeting, if you can mind shuffle stuff away, it just is hard. I started feeling like I would have to put in so much effort. Like past the point of this is fun for me effort, like to like this is now my like other job is crafting Malfie, is really brainstorming how to deal with these like exceptionally tough matchups. Because like I think like Blitzclick does really well into Elf Note. I learned that. And so that's fun to play against decks where there's like a better back and forth. But at the same time, it's like, okay, you go to locals and you get paired up against a Mitsurugi deck and you're on Blitzclick. How's it going to perform? Does it do well? And if it has a bunch of inherent weaknesses because it hasn't been set up to be this powerful deck. I've mentioned this before, and I think I said it in my Discord about how I very often, like, I do think you can look at the OCG to get some type of semblance sense of what's going to be good, right? It's not the be-all, end-all. It very much does matter who's playing the deck, right? Someone who really enjoys it, puts in the time on things like Blitzclick, like you can, where's Alphonse? Sorry, I had to check on my baby. can be really good. I'm not saying, that's the other thing too, is like the deck inherently cannot win Nats. It's not going to win the deck will not win the regional. You will. The person playing it. But I feel like if you're not going to play meta, you have a tougher road ahead of you that is going to require more of you in order to feel successful and find success. And I just don't like that that's what I would have to do to just have access and try to play decks that I want to play. Who do I blame for this? Konami. I blame Konami. Yes and no. Yes. So I feel like, well, not even feel like, Konami's a business. They're a business. And having been in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! For a year, there's things I've noticed. People knew that Juhu was going to be crazy from well before it released, right? There was so much conversation around Yummies. There was so much conversation around Draco Tail, around K9. It was like, oh, this is like deck builder. This is good. These are going to be good. And I found it interesting because I didn't know the difference between the different sets that were coming out and what were deck builder sets and what were just like additional sets. I'm not even sure what you call them. But I came in at a time where there was 3 very viable decks that I think each had their turn in the spotlight and were able to be configured, right? Like you could do K9 for hire. There was like different configurations that you were able to do with all of these decks. And so where it felt like you can play meta, you can also play like off meta, and you can also mix things together. I think I was playing Malice primarily, I guess it would be through like Juhu format. And it didn't feel as like overbearing. I don't know what format we're in now, but there is such a frustration. The amount of people who I have seen in my local Discord groups, local Facebook groups, being like, anyone have cool tunes? And it just boggles my mind because, and again, I explained this, I kind of already have that anti, like I already am like, I'm not touching cool tunes now. Like this just, I still haven't read Harry Potter. You know what I mean? Where there's this weird idea that like, well, Cool Tunes was like top to everything. It was like in the top 8 for everything. That doesn't mean that me picking up Cool Tunes, I'm going to top a regional. It doesn't, there's not this equation, but yet Konami has created these environments and these decks that, I mean, I personally think Cool Tune had such a heightened, like where more people got into it, and then you invest in the deck and then more people are going to be playing it. And so I get it, switching decks is not easy because I know people who've been playing Cool Tune since before this happened. If you were playing Cool Tune pre-Harmonia, you're a real one. You should stay on Cool Tune. Everybody else, are you playing it because you think it's the best deck and you want to win? And if that's the state of the game where the only way to feel successful is to play the best deck, then that's how we end up with me feeling like I don't like that. Harmonia was such a huge push. They created a tuner synchro lock hand trap for $100 a copy. They have, I guaranteed, made so much money off of Harmonias. And then they've released decks that can utilize them, access them. Blitzclick, not really having an extra deck, is a way that you can access Harmonia. Rolad, you can do Harmonias and you can do all that. Like, because if you don't, I mean, you're not going to be using your extra deck for like the weird link climbing stuff that I've seen some Ritual of Light and Darkness deck do. Like, there you go. There you can do another Harmonia. And so that's even with Elf Note. Like, it's not as, I mean, it's crazy, and Harmonia is crazy in Cool Tune because it's a tuner as well. Like your tuner locked your tuner locked in Cool Tunes, and like they give you a tuner and synchro locks you, but all you play is synchro. Crazy. It does well in Elf Note though. Like, so I feel like Konami, with their ban lists, with their cards that they release, and the choices that they make for archetypes, like the Blitzclick archetype, would just give more quick effects. Just make Emmy place a trap instead of search it. Let her do what Fortuna does. And you suddenly have elevated that deck to be more competitive. Just have it so that Crackle is a quick effect on both players' turns. And you have now elevated what it can do. Give Surge an on-summon effect. And you have elevated. Like, there's ways to elevate decks. And I know Konami knows this, but it feels like there is this intention of when Blitzclick was made, oh my gosh, you guys see like the Genesis? Like, it was almost like, yeah, this is going to be the Genesis. Like, this is Genesis. But what about for those of us that don't play Genesis? The comments saying you should try Malfie and Genesis, while I understand that they're meant to be helpful, why do I have to switch formats to play the deck that I want to play? And all of this has been over the past few weeks of just giving that feeling of, I really do love this game, but sometimes it feels like the choices of what I can play to feel successful are limiting. And there's such a huge card pool, and there's so many cute, fun, amazing archetypes. And while them, meaning Konami, creating Genesis did solve, like, now there is the format, right? Like, I shouldn't be too like, I don't want to have to play Genesis. I get it. Before Genesis, it was like, well, now you're literally out of luck. Continue crying on the internet about it, but like, you're not going to have anywhere to play it. So like, yes, there is a gratefulness that if I really want to play it, I can. Oh, Alphonse's big old forehead. But just sometimes the feeling around Yu-Gi-Oh! Can start feeling, it just makes me sad. Makes me sad that I can't just play my fun little deck. Makes me sad that I have reached a point that even when I am playing, Fairy Tale, I made the joke whenever I'd have to play against my boyfriend and I'm on Fairy Tale and he's on Elf Notes or Rolad or literally whatever. Because he's such an experienced player, it tends to come down to dice rolls. I mean, I filmed and uploaded a whole thing about Blitzclick v Elf Note. I won the dice roll. Now, granted, I did cheat in game 1, so... But also, like, that whole thing of, like, okay, cool, fine, play a more meta deck. Doesn't have to be perfectly meta, but try to pick something that's not, like, completely rogue. But then you're going to reach a threshold where, like, I feel like I got really good with Fairy Tale to the point where it was dice roll dependent. Or you draw the cracked hand, right? Like, there is that, like, luck-based thing. And people will say, like, oh, it's not luck. You got to run the numbers on, like, what are the statistical odds that you're going to... But, like... Sometimes it feels like there's stuff that's not in your control, and specifically with the way Yu-Gi-Oh! Is set up, where if you go first and you're allowed to go uninterrupted and you set up this crazy board, and you're able to get, even if it's not a crazy board, right? Because, like, I think Cool Tune, it has been a refresher in the sense of, like, it's not this crazy combo deck. But it still sets up a very powerful end board that is able to do a lot on your turn. Versus, I thought Blitzclick was going to feel similar, but like Blitzclick doesn't really have, like, by itself, I feel like a very solid end, like an end board. So yeah, I don't know, just like the dice roll, just playing, and like then you lose the dice roll and you're like, you win game 2, but you lose game 1 and 3 because you didn't go first. You didn't have the out, you didn't have the answer. Wanting to play certain decks and just feeling like they have terrible matchups or they just can't even compete in the current landscape. Knowing that Genesis is available and being grateful for it, but also being like, sometimes I just want to play my slow little deck. Just watching the meta, like seeing all of the graphics where, don't get me wrong, I get you who had its problems, but like you at least had 3 decks. Cool Tune being 7 of the 8 is... I feel like when you don't have a varied format, I don't know. I haven't been through a lot of formats. Let me know. Is this just par for the course? Are we in a non-varied format and everyone starts feeling like, damn, this kind of sucks a little bit, but I'm still going to play because I love it. But like, I think I was really lucky to come in a Juhu format, and I might have been a little spoiled with it because I just felt like I had so much more choice. And now playing against some of the newer meta competitors, it's like, gosh, and if one more person in a local Facebook group is like looking to buy a Cool Tune core, and I'm like, okay, Bob, Yeah, because that's the solution, right? You know how you like, because, sorry, I'm gonna go on a small tangent, a little bit of rant. You know those locals players who, they never top locals, like they don't do well, but they're constantly blaming the deck and constantly trying to play like the meta deck. Like they're the ones who have played every single meta deck to come out, and they don't get the results with it because, again, it's not the deck, it's the player. And if you just pick up a deck and expect to be good at it, because I'm also having my frustration where like my boyfriend was just, he's so good at elf notes. He's so good at elf notes. And I picked up elf notes and was hoping that through osmosis, I would also be good at elf notes. I am so bad at elf notes. That deck is hard. Like, yes, baby proof. I make Crystal Wing. And if I win the dice roll, I have a chance, but oh my gosh, like you can't just go pick up Cool Tunes and assume that you will be in the next. That also is just my avoidance and my, like, I won't read Harry Potter the same way I won't play Cool Tunes feelings of just seeing people, in my opinion, bandwagon onto decks because they see that they're doing well. And I'm like, Konami, give us more. Just, there's ways to make new decks that come out and where we're not in this like super flooded, saturated, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be going to a regional and the amount of people who in my area have been like, anyone selling Cool Tunes? And I'm like, well, I guess I need to find someone to practice against who has the Cool Tune deck because, like, I think here I was worried about my mind being shuffled, but I think I'm just going to get clipped and crackled and whatever those little music girls do. Anyway, thanks for joining. This was it was kind of a let's yap. It was also kind of a let's vent. How are you currently feeling about Yu-Gi-Oh? What are your thoughts on the meta, on the decks that are coming out, on the price of cards that are very like, you know, I know that not every card is necessary, but then also you see it's like, Pot of Sloth, Harmonia, Illusion Gate, Solemn Accusations, and it's like, dude, I can't even afford ad-free YouTube. And I spend money on cards. And I'm like, well, I have to pick and choose. We've created a little bit of a money suck in order to feel competitive at the game. And even then, it doesn't promise you anything. Keep that in mind, too. Keep that in mind. Having the Harmonias, having the Pots of Sloths, having all of the most expensive tech is still not going to guarantee anything. But the fact that you are one step closer to potentially feeling successful at the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! If you play one of the 4 decks that Konami has somehow propped up to be super meta, then yeah, let me know your thoughts. Thanks for hanging out. Sorry if this is kind of like a downer, but like, thanks for being my therapist. You're the best. We'll get through this together, and hopefully the next format, the graphs will not look how they did this format. Okay, catch you on the next one.